The movie. This Bar on the Ray was in Georgia in Ray. Almost all of Ray was filmed in New Orleans, or at least South Louisiana, but that bar was in Georgia for Ray. They filmed, well, I mean, we had some really good tax credits. A lot of the filming has moved to Georgia since then, which is kind of ironic. But they do some filming here occasionally. One of the funny things is, if you saw the Green Book, that filmed all in Louisiana, even the snow scene. So 2 winters ago, we had snow. Not much, like an eighth of an inch, but the snow scene in Green Book that was in New York actually filmed in Louisiana, which is hilarious. Because we only get snow like once every 8 to 10 years, so they really timed that pretty good. Anyway, we just left the Garden District. We are just maybe a decade beyond that. So we just left 1830s-ish. Now we're on the 1840s. But the houses look, well, let's say a little different. I want you to look to the right, backing up between the green and tan house. You'll see just how close you get to your neighbor without touching.
Oh my goodness.
So the Garden District originally was laid out with 4 houses to a block. And this is just 10 years after that. So what the heck happened? Thousands. German, Irish, Croatian, Filipino, Hungarian, Polish, Russian, Eastern European Jews have quadrupled the population here seemingly overnight. But here's the thing. We live in a bowl and it rains a lot. You know what happens when it rains in a bowl? Bowl fills up. If you live in a bowl and you don't want to fill up, go to the edge. By the 1840s, the edge gets really small really quick. On the right, this is the International School of Louisiana, the first French immersion school in the state, when Brad Pitt and Angelina lived here full time, so their kids went to a public school. Now, this school took years to open. After World War I, it became illegal to speak French in a public building, punishable by jail to teach it in school. Can you imagine impressionable young children learning French? Mon Dieu! It wasn't until the 1960s it made it to the state Supreme Court, eventually being overturned. Now, if you go to public school in Louisiana, especially South Louisiana, you can be required to learn French. So, je parle un petit peu français, mais je oublie beaucoup de français. I remember stuff like je conduis l'autobus, c'est une porte, c'est une poubelle, je bois du café. That's mostly like the bad words, you know. The first ones you learn, last ones you forget. You know how it goes. Now, a moment ago, I said it rains here a lot. It does. When you think of a wet U.S. city, what city comes to mind? Seattle, Washington gets 37 inches of rain a year. That's respectable, but not that much. New Orleans gets 64 inches a year. We're almost twice as wet as Seattle. The difference is accumulation. When it rains in Seattle, it's like a mist. It's like a drizzle. When it rains here, you know it. Yeah. 3 times this year, we had showers. We had a 5-inch, 6-inch, 7-inch. When you're getting your rain 5, 6, 7 inches at a time, it's not hard to get 64 inches a year. Oh, and by the way, October is the driest month of the year. Welcome to the driest month of the year, by the way. Yep. The 3 wettest major U.S. cities. Number 3, New Orleans. Number 2, Mobile. Number 3, Pensacola. Tells you the Gulf South is a pretty wet place. All right, I should check this earlier, but let me check now. Is the temperature feeling okay? How I feel? Warm. We're warm? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to turn this front AC on just a little bit. I think that should even us out. But if it doesn't, just yell at me in a second. I can crank it up. I love to crank it up. I feel like it's comfortable if I can see myself breathing. That's how I like it, okay? So you definitely not have to work hard to get me to turn the AC off. On the right, this is my favorite attraction in New Orleans. It is the National World War II Museum. According to TripAdvisor, you're looking at one of the 10 best museums in the world. It is, according to TripAdvisor, the 3rd best museum in the United States. And TripAdvisor says if you go into New Orleans, this is the number 1 top travel pick for this city 12 years in a row. According to, it was designed originally by Tom Hanks from Concord, California. It is 5 buildings, 2 more on the way, 6 acres. It's open 7 days, 9 to 5. If you get a chance, you don't want to miss this. It is too good to miss. I don't know where Concord, California is, but I was corrected on my pronunciation of it. So it's not Concord, it's Concord, California. It's here because of Hanks himself and Stephen Ambrose. Ambrose was the author of Band of Brothers. He's from New Orleans, recently passed. Oh, by the way, there's a follow-up coming to Band of Brothers. If you like Band of Brothers, there's a follow-up coming up for it. There, it's already underway. But yeah, if you get a chance, don't miss this. Has anybody been yet? Been twice. What do you think? Halfway decent? Yeah? Yeah? When was the last time you went? Was it this trip or? Okay. Well, they've added a bit since last time, but like I said, they got 2 new buildings on the way, so you probably want to come back when they finish those next 2 buildings. On the left, Civil War Museum, oldest museum in the state. Again on the left, the Ogden, the largest collection of Southern art in the U.S., also called the Gold Ring Hall, presented to you by the prestigious University of New Orleans. I'm the only person that uses a descriptor in front of University of New Orleans, by the way. On the right, here's the Contemporary Art Center. It used to be a warehouse. It was converted to an art gallery. Serena Williams got married here a couple years ago at this structure. Yeah, she's not from here, but she has a trainer and she likes to spend time here. She said when came time to tie the knot, she could think of no better place in New Orleans. So, backing up for just a second, why on earth is there a world-class Smithsonian-run World War II museum in a place like New Orleans? That's weird, isn't it? All right, I'll have to give you that. She said there's nothing weird for New Orleans. I gotta say, I'll give you that. I will not argue that point, okay? I'm pretty sure everybody's seen pictures or footage of the landings at Normandy, yes? Yeah. You remember the boats that came up on the beach and the front dropped down? I'll give you one guess where they built those. New Orleans, oh! So 20,094 Higgins boats were built here. Every one of those boats was built here and tested in the lake before they were ever sent out to war. They were built in 7 facilities by more than 30,000 people, including my great-grandmother. She was very proud of that. And the reason why the museum is here is because the boats were, of course, built here. It was first called the D-Day Museum, and it's centered around the boats they built for use on D-Day. And it grew, and it grew, and shortly after Katrina, the Smithsonian took it over, and that's when it became the World War II Museum. But it's here because of the boats. This is unofficial history, all right? You'll not read this at the World War II Museum, but there are some historians that say that the boats that were built by Higgins were not originally intended to move troops. So Higgins' first shipyard where he built these type of boats was in southern Alabama during the 30s, during the late 20s and the early 30s, during Prohibition. And the story goes is he actually built these boats to run in the swamps of Alabama to be able to deliver booze. And somehow, right after Prohibition ended, his boat shop in Alabama folded. We don't know how. He was doing so well until Prohibition ended. But supposedly, now again, this is unofficial history, but supposedly these boats that he first designed were actually built to move booze in the swamps of Alabama. So, yeah, a little bit of unofficial history there, but kind of funny. Andrew Higgins also had a middle name, Andrew Jackson Higgins. He was named he was named in honor of Andrew Jackson. We'll talk about him in a little bit. Anyway, just a moment, we're going to be making our way towards Harrah's Casino. When New Orleans became a U.S. city, we had more places for gambling than New York, Boston, Baltimore, and Philadelphia combined. But by 1930, former Governor Huey Long, highly moral Huey Long, said that gambling was amoral, it bred corruption, and must be stopped. And so it was. About 90 years ago, gambling became illegal and unconstitutional, thanks to Long. And that's why we do not gamble in Louisiana. It is against the law. No, serious. Gambling is 100% illegal in our state. We do not gamble in Louisiana. We don't do it. We do not do it.
Except in the casinos.
No, I'm telling you, gambling is illegal even in the casino. I'm telling you, it's against the law. I'm serious. We don't gamble. We don't do it.
Downtown casino.
Oh, that's the whole point of the casino, isn't it? Coming up on the left, we're about to pass the Piazza d'Italia and the American Italian Cultural Museum, built for the 1984 World's Fair to connect us to the Italian immigrants that come through New Orleans. So by the end of the 1800s, Sicily's in the grips of the mafia. About 300,000 Sicilians end up in New Orleans to escape the mafia. Unfortunately, they follow. First mafia family in the U.S., New Orleans. First mafia trial in the U.S., New Orleans. First mafia acquittal in the U.S., you better believe it. It's New Orleans, and that led to an international incident. The reputed mafia boss in New Orleans, Carlos Marcello. Marcello is tied directly to Jack Ruby from Dallas, Texas. Lee Harvey Oswald from New Orleans. No joke, my grandpa went to school with Oswald. He said Oswald kept it himself. What a shock, right? What a shock. On the left, there's a back of the Piazza d'Italia in the American Italian Cultural Center. It's a free museum, by the way. If you're interested, it's here. It's free, doesn't cost anything. And oh, y'all gonna like this. Marcello was tied directly to Jimmy Hoffa. Hoffa disappeared the same year the Superdome was being built. Y'all can stop looking at those farms in Michigan. Y'all can stop looking at Giant Stadium. We know where Hoffa is, my Michiganders. We've got it figured out. We know. We know. Yeah. I saw last year on the news they were digging for him somewhere in Michigan. Yeah. Not going to find him up there, y'all. Not going to find him up there. Coming up on the right, Harris Casino. So, if we don't gamble here, then what do we do? Oh, there we go. Somebody said it. Gaming is correct. You can game here, but you cannot gamble here. Gaming is legal. Gambling is not. So right around 1990, they made gambling legal in Mississippi. So everybody here that had extra money was driving across the state line, dropping off their extra money, and then driving home. We wanted to make their drive shorter. So Governor Edwin Edwards took office in '94, attempted to re-legalize gambling. But to do that requires a statewide vote to change the Constitution. They wouldn't let him put it on the ballot. So instead of doing that, he passed a bill to legalize gaming. Gaming is legal, gambling is not. So what gaming is, gaming means the state can sell gaming permits. So Harris won a permit from the state. They put it on the wall, and everything they do here is called gaming because they are permitted to do so. Now, if we went to my house, did the same exact stuff and got caught without a permit, it's called gambling. Gaming is legal because you're permitted to do it. Gambling is not. So you can game in Harris, but you cannot gamble. Well, I mean, I guess technically you could gamble in Harris, but then it'd be illegal. All right, we're leaving the American sector or the American quarter behind us, crossing the dividing line, which is Canal Street, where there never actually was a canal, despite the name. If that was the American sector, then this side must have been the French Quarter. American sector, French Quarter. That's how we got split. Now, that other side was annexed in the middle 1800s. It was a separate city up to that point. Now, to the right, you go to the edge of the bowl. To go to the edge of the bowl from the inside, you got to go up to the edge. So on the right, that is the highest high ground in New Orleans, towering at 24 feet above sea level. Ooh, that tan green building. Now, high ground is a small, precious commodity. To utilize it, you have to be careful, right? So what kind of structure should we put on the highest ground we have? University, hospital, city hall, bank, jail? Nope.
Parking lot.
What did you say?
Parking lot.
No. That is the aquarium! When Katrina hit, banks, jails, hospitals, city hall, records all underwater. The fish and the slot machines High and dry. Ooh, dodged a bullet there, didn't we? Yeah, we did. And some of you have seen inside of there if you saw the last Aquaman film. The flashback to Aquaman as a kid in the Boston Aquarium, that big shark tank, that's us. That's the center point. That's their like centerpiece. Is the shark tank. That was our aquarium. It was ranked top 5 in the U.S. It's pretty good. Placement could be a little better, but the aquarium itself is decent. On the left, there's a bronze sculpture of our city's favorite Canadian. It's JB, not Justin Bieber. It is Jean-Baptiste, the founder of New Orleans. Faces north to his place of birth, which is Quebec. Quebec City, Quebec. Now, strange thing about the French Quarter, the architecture is not French. This city burned twice, 1788, 1794. Between the fires, there are 2 buildings left up. Spain rebuilt everything else. At the time, we're a Spanish colony run from Havana, Cuba. So we're ruled from Spain through Havana. So Havana is the seat of government. As a Spanish colony, we are burnt. As a Spanish colony, we are rebuilt. We share more in common places like Havana, Old San Juan, Key West more than anywhere else. The predominant building style is Spanish colonial. First building codes here, Spanish. The galleries, the balconies, Spanish. The first iron hung in New Orleans came from Madrid, not Paris. So if you're in the quarter and you get this vague Caribbean vibe, that's probably why. Yeah, Jack's Brewery in the Right's no longer operational. In the 60s, early 70s, the biggest employer we had was the port and the oil industry. A lot of the oil jobs left for Texas. And when the city starts needing money from taxes, the first thing they do is they start jacking up taxes, because that's going to work. Ask Herbert Hoover about that. A lot of businesses closed in New Orleans because of the inflated taxes, including Jack's. They brewed beer here for 100 years. They closed up in the late 70s, I think 77, because of the taxes. The name and the recipe was purchased by Shiner Bock. You can still get Jack's beer, but you gotta buy it from Shiner, Texas, and drive there to pick it up, or send a truck to pick it up for you. My dad said Jack's beer is really good. I don't believe it. They used water. Have you had it? They used water directly from the river. And they said the bottom of the pony bottle at the ring, there's a ring of sediment at the bottom of every bottle. So he said you couldn't drink the whole thing because then you were drinking sand. It was cheap though. Coming up on the left, I bet you get it from Shiner. It doesn't have any sediment in it. It's not original. It's not authentic. On the left, the French Quarters French Square, name for it. Well, French Quarters French Square, the oldest square we have, of course, has a great French name. It is... No? Jackson Square! The French Square is named for an American, and the American Square is named for a Frenchman. So coming up on the left is Jackson Square. General Andrew Jackson comes here in December of 1814. The British are coming. We're talking about the War of 1812. We are embroiled in a war with the British. Jackson has just fought a battle in Mobile, Alabama. He's got a mini ball in the left arm. He's come to New Orleans, outnumbered 3-1 after reinforcements arrived from Texas. He has now a case of dysentery, which is ew. He still marches 8 miles in front of us downriver,
We did all this.
stops the British invasion, ends the War of 1812, and thanks to Andrew Jackson, we're not all speaking British today. Right in the middle is General Andrew Jackson himself. On the left, you'll see him coming up. Jackson's on his horse, Old Duke. Jackson on the left is the only guy with a horse. It is illegal to pull a cart in New Orleans with a horse. Those are mules. Behind Jackson in the middle is St. Louis Cathedral, the oldest continually operating Catholic cathedral in the U.S. It's also a minor basilica. On the left is the Cabildo, capital for government for the entire colony. Cabildo means council. On the right is the presbytere or priest house where the priests lived. And this is it, the center of government, military, and the church for the entire colony. And they rename it for Jackson when your name is, well, everything. Bless you. Battle of New Orleans worked out really well in our favor because the British were nice enough to put their generals and colonels on horseback, so it was pretty easy for us to pick them off. The guy leading the British at the time, his name was Pakenham. He was actually from Ireland. And he took 2 hits before he was taken down fatally. He was sent back to Ireland, pickled in a cask of rum. Oh. Yes, what a way to go indeed. If you heard the song by Johnny Horton, Battle of New Orleans, it's actually wrong on two things. They say Colonel Jackson's actually general, and they say they fought the bloody British, no offense, in the town of New Orleans. It was actually fought about 8 miles downriver from here in a little town called Chalmette. We fought the bloody British in the town of Chalmette. I guess just didn't sound right, didn't have the same ring to it. Plus, I guess they already made the Facebook invitations and all that, so, you know, they just kept it with the Battle of New Orleans. On the right, Café du Monde, the oldest coffee shop in the state, 1862. Café du Monde started selling fried square pockets of French bread dough covered in powdered sugar. They called these donuts. They were donuts for 96 years. And then in 1958, they had a genius idea. They figured out they might sell better with a fancy sounding French name. In 1958, they stopped calling them donuts, and they started calling them beignets because it sounds better. Everything sounds better in French. Yes, so bit of a marketing gimmick there, yeah. If you actually walk in and look up at the ceiling tiles, they have old advertisements in the ceiling tiles, and it says, donuts 3 for 5 cents. So, yeah. On the left, there's a little short block here called Madison. If you watch the movie King Creole with Elvis, Elvis sings Down to the Street on the Left in King Creole, the crawfish song. I know it's an old movie, but Elvis said of all the places he filmed, New Orleans was his favorite. Elvis, of course, was from Tupelo, Mississippi, right next door. And right here on the left, Two Jacks, the oldest standing bar in the country, right there. By the way, beignets taste best if you're wearing black or navy blue. We don't know why. It's weird, I know, right? Now, if you listen to Emeril Lagasse, Emeril says the best beignets come from Cafe Beignet. But what does Emeril know? He's from Massachusetts, right? Has anybody been to Cafe Beignet, by the way? Yeah? What do you think? I like Cafe Beignet better, too. My wife says Café du Monde's better. I like Cafe Beignet better. So they're both, I mean, all the beignets are made basically the same. They're leavened with yeast. But they say Cafe Beignet, the 11 years longer, and they're a bit poofier. I like the poof. I like the chewed Cafe Beignet. The Cafe du Monde ones are a little denser. My wife prefers those. But I guess just, yeah, it's all personal preference. On the left, Central Grocery gave us our other sandwich, the muffalata. Sicilian bread, mortadella, provolone, olive salad. It's good stuff. Again on the left, here's a gilded sculpture of Jeanne d'Arc. Joan of Arc is the maiden, the saint of Orleans, France. We are the sister city of Orleans, and they gifted us a sculpture. That's why she's here. Now, the French market has 3 major components. Back to the right is the colonnade, the retail shops. On the left in the middle is the food court section. They have food and refreshing adult beverages. And towards the end is the flea market section. The prices are a little negotiable. Good spot to get souvenirs, stuff to take home. The market is open 7 days, 9 to about 6, depending how busy they are. Now, the natives were trading here first. The Spanish put the roof on it. That's why it's called the French market. Towards this end on the left, the big red building is the old U.S. Mint. This is the oldest mint building left in the U.S. It was taken over by the National Park Service. The first floor is a minting currency museum, and the second floor is a jazz museum. You can see Louis Armstrong's first cornet, Fats Domino's piano, as well as some great jazz artifacts. Now, Domino from New Orleans is credited with more classic rock hits than any other artist except for that guy from Tupelo with the hips, Elvis Presley. Now, if you want to hear some jazz, you got to turn right. This is Frenchman Street, the hotspot for live local jazz. On the left, there's Checkpoint Charlie, Vaso, love Vaso. On the right, Music Factory sells music from artists you won't get anywhere else except